It's a good question. Why do you seek the living among the dead? Now, before I get going on that, I want to defend Mary of Magdala just a little bit. She was involved in something that you might call duty. She was involved in finishing off burial rites that would have been expected both religiously and culturally. Rites that were interrupted by the onset of the special day where they wouldn't be allowed to touch dead bodies, the Sabbath. So her coming to the place where Jesus had been laid would be to honor Jesus, to do what was expected, to give honor when the crucifixion had taken so much of that away. And it was reasonable to begin any search in the garden, living or dead, because you always go from what you know to what you don't know. You'll perhaps recall the unfortunate 10-year-old boy from Quebec that went missing. They didn't know whether he was alive or dead, but tried to retrace the steps that they knew, even using video, starting the search with his last known whereabouts. Jesus' last known whereabouts was exactly in the garden tomb, and the men didn't start to search at all until the women reported that what they had seen at the garden tomb, words that were taken as idle tales or as nonsense. So we need to take it easy on those women, the first witnesses to the empty tomb. Having said all that, what does one expect to find in a cemetery? Dead people. Some say you can learn a lot about a society by examining its cemeteries, and I believe that's true. And there is value in honoring those that we have loved but see no more. There's value in reminiscing about the good times that we miss. There is value, too, in celebrating the past. But cemeteries are about death, and they are entirely about what is past. If our goal is to focus on what is next in our lives, or on what is to come generally, or to focus on the future, then we need to get beyond the cemetery, beyond the tomb and its mentality. A tomb is no place for the living. So if you are looking for life in a tomb, you are searching in the wrong place. Humanity searches for life, abundant life, but real life will not be found among things that perish. If we focus there, we will be disappointed. If you look amid dead things, you will not find living things. Perhaps you will recall a few years ago when some unscrupulous archaeologists announced around Easter time that they had found an ossuary, a bone box of Jesus' bones. It was a hoax. Surprise. But if you look for a dead Jesus, you will never find him. And I'll say that again. If you look for a dead Jesus, as they were doing, you will never find him. You see, the women tried that, and they failed. Later, the men tried that, and they failed too. The Romans even tried it, and failed. But how often do we persist in looking for life among dead things that can't give life, nor even enhance the life that we have? Some years ago, I was called into a hospital and coronary care. There was an American businessman there who had suffered a heart attack but survived. And I was able to talk with him in that coronary care unit. It seems that he had started out life in an immigrant family, a very poor family, and he was determined through his business life to become rich, which he did. He wanted to give his family everything, especially the things that he had missed growing up, and he was successful in doing that. He had managed to get a larger house than they really needed, which necessitated getting hired help to clean it. He even had hired help to cut the lawn and do the gardens. When the kids came along, they were tended to by a live-in nanny, at least until the point at which they could go away to very prestigious boarding schools. But he didn't know them. He provided for his family, but he didn't know his wife, and he didn't know his kids. And so there he was, having narrowly escaped death, and he was more concerned about the fact that he didn't know his family and his family didn't know him than he was with death itself. He didn't want to die an unknown. There are many tombs in life, tombs often of our own creation, that promise everything but give us nothing. And yet we persist in seeking the living among the dead. But consider Jesus for a moment. He is the source of life. He has authority over life and death. It is absurd to seek him among the dead. While he might visit death for a time, he could never be held hostage to it. So maybe part of Mary's dilemma was that she was searching for a what when she should have been searching for a who. She was searching for something when she should have been searching for someone. She was searching for a corpse to embalm when she should have been searching for a living Lord. Life comes not from anything in the created order, but from the Creator. I mentioned a few weeks ago when I was talking about the Celtic Church and St. Patrick that they had a handle on the glory of God, seeing within, even beyond the mundane, to reveal the glory of God in ordinary things. For our Orthodox brothers and sisters, there is an element of spiritual vision at play, or blindness at play, about Easter. They believe that some are blinded by sin and see only the tomb and its shadows. Even an empty tomb is confusing. So they fail to see the risen Jesus. Others, however, by the virtue given them by God, see beyond the tomb. They catch a glimpse of the throne of heaven and of the risen Lord seated in glory upon it. They see beyond what has been, or what is even, to what will be. Changing our perspective from the death of the tomb to the life of the Lord of heaven helps us accept, even expect the presence of the risen Christ among us. His resurrected life breaks open our tombs. It helps us emerge from death, from grief, and from sadness, and offers the joy and the hope of new life to us too, even resurrection. If you are still immersed in the sorrow of your own self-inflicted tomb, whatever that might be, Easter is an excellent time to move on to abundant life beyond death and beyond the grave. Thanks be to God. Amen.